Today we're going to be talking about custom house rules and how you can develop and design an ability for players to be able to engage and act inside your gaming world with maybe even some rules they can add to a game. So Mike, what's the difference between a general set of rules for your game and then maybe some custom house rules when players are playing inside of your world?
Yeah, in traditional games and board games and card games that people would play, you couldn't enforce that any league would necessarily use the same rules. You could print a rule book for your board game, but people wouldn't always follow it, and sometimes they'd come up with creative rules that are fun for them or sometimes even better. And the classic example of that is the free parking space in Monopoly. In the original Monopoly rules, free parking was just a safe zone, nothing happened. And what people somehow ended up doing was taking the money that they paid for taxes into the free parking spot, and if anybody landed on it, they take the money out and they would win it. So it added a cool little lottery feature to the
kind
game.
Of incentive.
And if you look at the rule book to a Monopoly game today, they actually mention that as a potential house rule. And they say, look, make up your own rules, have fun. Here's some house rules that people enjoy when they're playing Monopoly, even though these aren't the official rules to the game, which is really cool. And people sometimes will have house rules that are just specific to them or their league, and sometimes they're very, very popular. In a video game, obviously, the way that the game works is very much hard-coded. So if it's a multiplayer game, somebody might come up with a rule like, hey, we don't attack people, and we'll ban you from our server or something like that. But a lot of times, if a company creates a video game and they have a feature, they'll have the option for you to change what the rules are. And a classic example would just be changing the difficulty of a game. You raise the difficulty and the enemies will be harder to kill, or you'll have less bullets or resources or lives. But a lot of times, if a company releases an expansion pack or a DLC for their game, they'll say, hey, you can turn this feature on or off. You can very much tailor what things look like or how things operate. You can change all sorts of features. So basically, when you're designing a game, you can guide the player to have a certain kind of experience that you want to convey, but you don't really want to prevent players from having fun in their games. And if you're adding a feature, you can consider making it optional. And if you're creating an expansion to a video game or a board game, you can say, hey, we're going to make an option for you to play one way or another, just so that players can have the most fun and play the way that they want.
Well, I think this connects too about creating communities and kind of managing the community for your game. So obviously, if it's an online game like, a video game that maybe has a hard-coded platform or a digital property where you have a community-based engagement with that game, you could certainly give the players in that community an opportunity to be part of future game development, like you mentioned, through expansion packs, etc. So I think this connects to some of the other conversations we've had about how to develop a community for your game, how to build interest for your game, is to be receptive to what your community wants and also be open to the fact that the players of your game may find out how to optimize and actually create a more engaging gaming experience as they get into the game creation itself.
Lots of video game companies will see that there's a big mod community, and they're like, oh, people are making mods to this or that. Maybe we'll take those ideas into consideration when we make our own games. And the thing is that there are different kinds of players, which is something that we've made a video about, how there are different things that people can be good at in games. Skill,
play style,
and strategy. And some people play one way or another. And we're going to make a video about some more different kinds of ways, that different player types, that some people enjoy playing a game in a different way. And that's something that you can do with rules. A lot of times there will be a controversial element to a game that some people really, really, really like this feature. Some people don't like this feature, so you give people the option to play one way or the other. Some people, really like in a war game, they might really like a certain kind of weapon. So you can play with it on, you can play with it off, you can play with friendly fire on or off, and one half of your community will love playing this way, one half of the community will love playing this way. So by making it an option, you can sell your game to everybody and everybody can have fun.
Well, this connects as well to the development track for a game that we've talked about previously, is realizing that you almost want to work from the end point back, so that if you are going to have a feature like that, that's there's a toggle for it. That's something that's got to be built into your development track. So whether you're using Unreal Engine or Unity or any other development software, you want to think through and say, is this something that the player may want or the player might not want? Or certain players want to be able to customize and tailor that experience. Certainly that has to do with, designing a home screen or designing any interactive aspect of the game, with obviously the added understanding that expansions and mods and updates to your game, even if they're done internally by your team, should and can take into account how your community wants to interact with your system.
Yeah, when you're planning things out, take the features that you're building into consideration and think maybe I'll let people turn this on or off, so that in the future
they can customize it to their experience.
The game is as fun as possible.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for tuning back in. This is Game Brainz. Be sure to subscribe and check out the other videos below. And until next time, thank you so much for watching.